There, welcome back. I'm Brother Ben, and I'm Bate Raki de Samanera, but Brother Ben for short. So today I'm going to be looking at the English Romantic poets and their relationship to the Buddha Dharma, and also the Beatles, and also the German Romantic poets. This phenomena of Romanticism relative to the Buddhist teachings, whether it manifested in English, in England, German, or in modern times. For example, with the Beatles, who we looked at in a previous video, I recommend you go take a look at that. So I want to stress the importance of understanding different artistic movements and their philosophical influences, both being influenced and influencing. Many of them have philosophical underpinnings. Let's take a look first of all at an English poet. This is William Wordsworth. Let's go to the sphere we've got dedicated to him. Here we are. So let's zoom in and take a look at first of all, at some random trivia and facts, just to get a feel for the man, for the subject, his philosophy, his outlook, kind of person he was. Just a glimpse. Characterized by lyrical quality, he was deeply affected by the death of his parents, and he wrote extensively about nature and the beauty of the Lake District. Influenced by his friendship with Samuel Taylor Coleridge, we will look at in a moment. His poetry captures the essence of the human condition. Come grow old with me, the best is yet to be. One impulse from a vernal wood may teach you more of man, of moral evil and of mood. Environmental literature and conservation movements. Influenced by John Milton, William Shakespeare, and John Locke. We've looked at Shakespeare and John Locke a little bit in the series. The romantic concept of the poet as a visionary. We'll be looking also at William Blake. The holiest of all holidays are those kept by ourselves in silence and apart. So we see that contemplative, meditative solitude. This is recommended also by the Buddha in terms of our compare and contrast. And also that he's going into the Lake District, into nature, in order to find inspiration, peace, calm, and still the mind. This is also in common. Exploration of the imagination in literature. Wisdom is often sometimes nearer when we stoop than when we soar. That's actually very like Master Cheng Yen. I've heard her say very much a similar kind of thing. The child is father of the man. Wordsworth's poems evoke a sense of wonder and awe. Let's have a look a little bit higher, up the sphere. Served as poet laureates. I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, best known for that poem. Inspired by the changing seasons and natural phenomena. Best portion of a good man is his nameless little acts of kindness. The depiction of rural life in sculpture. He often wrote about the passage of time and mortality. So we see quite a lot in common there with the Buddha. He was born in 1780, he died in 1850. He was a key figure in the Romantic movement, known for his poetry celebrating nature. We have his famous poem, Daffodils. and his role as a poet laureate of the United Kingdom from 1843 until his death. A quote from him: "The world is too much with us. Late and soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers." Curious fact, Wordsworth was known for his love of walking and would often compose poetry while walking long distances. Wordsworth's reverence for nature and belief in its spiritual significance resonate with Buddha Dharma's emphasis on interconnectedness and mindfulness in nature appreciation. Let's take a look at someone else who was a friend of his, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. He's known for his poems like The Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Kubla Khan. He had a struggle with opium addiction. A good quote from him: "Water, water, everywhere, nor any drop to drink." Coleridge once claimed that he wrote Kubla Khan after waking from an opium-induced dream, only to be interrupted by a visitor, causing him to forget the rest of the poem. And that's a contrast with Buddha Dharma. His exploration of the imagination and the supernatural, can that be compared with Buddha Dharma teachings on the nature of consciousness and meditative states or not? You'd have to make your own mind up there. Let's have a look at William Blake. Go ahead, let's go there, take a look. To the sphere of the Blake. Profoundly influential person. A bit of trivia: I met his grandson and worked with him in London. Hilarious person. Very good comedian. And I like William Blake, first of all, because he influenced Peter Gabriel, the songwriter from previously from Genesis. And so William Blake explored themes of prophecy, revelation, divine inspiration, revelation, transcended boundaries between the earthly and the spiritual. The glory of Christianity is to conquer by forgiveness. He was influenced by medieval art, mythology, and folklore, saw visions, communicated with spirits, rejected traditional religious doctrines, embraced personal spirituality, travelled through mystical realms in his poetry, captured the essence of mystical experiences in it. Without contraries is no progression. Yeah, in The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, I read that one. To see a world in a grain of sand, from the Auguries of Innocence. Eternity is in love with the production of time. A self-taught person in art and literature. I must create a system or be enslaved by another man's. Let's have a look on other parts of the dome. It's an interesting person to look through, I find. Every night and every morn, some to misery are born. I particularly liked working through one poem of his called the Chimney Sweeper's Song. I actually put it to chords one time with a guitar, and it came out quite well. And it's a very moving one, because it talks about the death of children who were forced to work climbing up the insides and cleaning of chimneys and cleaning them, the soot out during that time. And when they one child falls asleep and has this dream of seeing an angel carrying a key and the angel went over and to another place, and there were all these young, like mini coffins of all the children who were dying. They would die from cancer of the scrotum due to the unclean conditions of never showering. And because they wouldn't heal, and they would constantly be bleeding and seeping, and constantly covered in black soot and crammed in, sleeping together as well. Horrible, horrible thought. And he had this dream of the angel coming and opening up their little black coffins, and they would come out and run down a green hill to a river where they would wash, and they would come back with clean clothes, healed. Desperate. So he would try to draw attention, like Charles Dickens. He embraced unconventional gender roles and feminist ideals, William Blake. The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom, William Blake. There we go. That's very much a contrast to the Buddha's middle way of not indulging. And he paid the price as well for this kind of philosophy. One of his poems was about syphilis of his wife, presumably gained through him philandering and following that philosophy of excess. So I think he transmitted syphilis to his wife. I'd need to check that. I'm talking about William Blake. And then he'd made this poem about the rotting rose, and we can know the imagery and symbolism there. We can intuit what that would be. He saw poetry as a means of personal spiritual liberation, incorporated elements of mythology and symbolism in his works. So from this we can start to see Romanticism values. It's difficult to sum them up in any one thing, but that eternity can be found through what? Through poetry, through the getting to this sort of artistic intuition, visionary condition and state, by getting completely out of the limitations of the physical world through some visionary way, through poetry, through song, and through mystical union. So he's very much like, in a way, like Carl Jung, William Blake. And you can see there's a very strong connection between the art of William Blake and the art of Carl Jung. They're certainly working from a very similar place, from being not a particularly skilled draftsman. William Blake is not a very skilled painter in terms of perspective, human proportion, anatomy, or even technique of drawing and painting and watercolor and pencil on paper. That's not where his strength is, or even composition. It's more that it has a visionary quality, simple as that it's capturing symbolism. He was born 1757 and lived through to 1827. A visionary poet, painter and printmaker, known for his works like Songs of Innocence and Experience. He had unique mythology and his belief in the power of imagination and creativity. To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower. A curiosity, Blake claimed to have seen visions of angels and other supernatural beings throughout his life. Regarding the Dharma, well, Blake's visionary insights and also his critique of societal norms, that can be compared somewhat with the Buddha's efforts of the Dharma, and that emphasis on transcending dualistic thinking and societal conditioning as well comes in. All right, but let's move on from William Blake for the moment and take a look at another person from the time who was born in 1788 until lived until 1824, and that would be Byron. Let's leave William Blake and zoom into the Byron sphere. It looks a little bit crowded, so I'm going to just expand that. Now we can probably read it a bit better. He kept a menagerie of exotic animals, did I just see? At his estate, so we're talking about gentry. Died in 1824 at the age of 36 from fever during the Greek War of Independence. I'm such a strange melange of good and evil. So we get already, this is not a saint, unlike the Buddha. I've seen a depiction of him in a sort of dramatized history, and he certainly does not come over as a saint. Let's put it that way, to put it in brief. He wrote the first two cantos of Childe Harold's Pilgrimage in Albania. He left a significant mark on English literature and Romanticism. His works challenged societal norms and explored the human condition. Known for his wit and humour, and his letters and journals are filled with amusing anecdotes. The depiction part of the depiction I saw of him, of Byron, when he was at boarding school, was dancing up and down and striding up on the table in front of everyone else. He was an excellent swimmer and once swam across the Hellespont, scandalized society with his numerous love affairs. This was the depiction that I saw. Certainly he was no celibate, accused of incestuous relationships with his half-sister, patron of struggling artists, and he supported writers, fluent in multiple languages, including Greek, avid horse rider, enjoyed equestrian pursuits, passionate interest in history, and often drew inspiration from historical events and figures. He wrote prolifically, producing poems, plays, and essays. So Lord Byron, 1788 birth, lived till 1824, a leading figure in the Romantic movement, known for his passionate poetry, adventurous lifestyle, proficient in various Italian dialects as well. Greek, Italian, French, and Latin, amongst others, it says that. Now, I saw the depiction of his death, and there was pouring rain, and he had a small army with him of soggy Greek drenched soldiers slopping around in mud. I mean, I'm assuming that was just prior to him getting his fever. He admired poet Alexander Pope and quoted from him extensively. He had famous works like Don Juan, and his involvement also in the Greek War of Independence is there. A quote from him: "There is pleasure in the pathless woods, there is rapture in the lonely shore." Byron kept a pet bear while studying at Trinity College, Cambridge, which he would walk around the grounds on a chain. He's a big contrast with the Buddha and the Dharma. Byron's exploration of personal freedom and social critique can be compared with Buddha Dharma's concept of non-attachment and compassionate engagement with the world. Okay, let's take a pause there. We've covered 4: William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, William Blake, and Lord Byron. The next one we'll go on to have a look at Percy Shelley, John Keats, the German Romantics, and we'll recoup on the Beatles a little bit. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed that. Keep it going with us to enjoy this look and contemplate about the contrast between some of these iconic figures in Western culture and the Eastern greats that we've been looking at. Thank you once again, and don't forget to like and subscribe. May many beings be free from avoidable suffering through understanding and building greater bridges between Eastern culture and Western culture. Take care. Look forward to next video.